welcome back. This will be the third video for spiritual warfare. I'm going to entitle it Our Inner Struggle. I know that if you've been listening, if you did listen to any of the two videos I made, that there is obstacles that you will face, and you go back to thinking and performing the way you usually do because you have to relearn yourself, and it's a hard process. But I have good news. The battle isn't just yours. The Lord's there to help you. And I have a verse that I would like to use as the anchor for this study today. And it's Romans 7:14-15. For we know the law is spiritual, but I am of the flesh, which means we're human, sold into bondage of sin, which we're born to be the way we are. For that which I am doing, I do not understand, for I am not practicing what I would like to do, but I'm doing the very thing I hate. So there's a verse in the Bible written by Paul, one of the greatest apostles. He wrote over a third of the New Testament, if not more. He had a lot of struggles. He had a lot of things to overcome. He was a very smart man. He was well educated, and he was a very prideful man. And he was out to persecute the Christians. And then the Lord got a hold of him, talked to him. He had a road to Damascus experience, which he was thrown off his horse and blinded for 3 days. But God got his attention, and it turned him into the greatest disciple there was in America, in the world. He's the one that, like I said, over a third of the New Testament he wrote. And he had a lot of struggles because he had a lot to overcome, and he had a lot of issues to deal with, and God helped him. So this is to give you encouragement to know that you're not in this battle alone. The Lord knows you're in a battle, and he's there to help you. But for him to help you, we need to study and know about the enemy that we have. I refer to him as the adversary, or the devil. But he is our enemy, and you have to understand how he operates so that you'll be able to better be aware and be not so caught off guard when he starts to attack you again with your thoughts. And the way that you do that is by studying your enemy. And I'm going to refer to it, since we're at Super Bowl today, to a football game. You know, every time a team plays another team, they go and study every play, the maneuvers, the way each player runs and how they grab the ball, what their positions are, how their plays, which way do they, under certain circumstances, what do they do to counteract what's going on the field. That's the same thing we have to do in our life every day, because the enemy is always throwing things at us, just like the football. You know, all of a sudden we're driving down the road, everything's going good, and all of a sudden we get bombarded with a thought, and then we start going, or we get a phone call, and it just takes us totally in a different direction than where we were going to. And we need to stop and make quick decisions on what we're going to do. And we always default back to those recycled thoughts that we were talking about last week. And 90% of them are negative. Boy. So it's difficult for us to put a positive stance on something that we automatically go to make it be negative, or, oh, I've been here before, and it never changes. If you study the enemy and things do start happening to us, it's not to say they're not going to happen, but you're better aware, and you have a plan on how you're going to react the next time it happens. You may not do it perfect the second or third time, but each time you get thrown into that situation or get off balance, you have more of an idea how you're going to approach it, instead of just going off and doing something that you didn't think about. You have more of a strategy, and that's what you need to do. The enemy is very strategic in when he attacks you, when not to attack you. He knows when to get you, and you need to learn yourself on how you can change the way that you react to things and the way you respond, because the way we react and respond has a lot to do with the outcome. And that is something that takes time, and it takes learning and practice at it. It doesn't happen overnight. Just like I said before, we didn't get to where we are overnight, and it's not going to be overnight that we get to be over it. So if you understand and start studying the Bible, and start studying about yourself and how the enemy attacks you, and make a list. I mean, it takes time to do this. You make a list of what did I encounter this last week since you're starting to try to change. What made you get upset? What were the circumstances that made you get upset? What made you get sad? It doesn't have to be a long list. Just write down like so and such and such. Somebody said this and it made me respond like this. I felt like this and this is what was happening. So that you can start looking at the way that you approach things and the way that you take in information that's coming towards you. As you better understand yourself, the better it's going to be for you to be able to go through life with not so many upheavals. You know, our life, like my cousin Bobby used to tell me, life is like a roller coaster, Terry. Either you're going up or you're going down. You know, when you're going up, you know what's going to happen. You're going to fall. We're not always living in the valley, which is the downward swing, and we're not always living on the mountaintop experience. Life is not always happy. Life isn't always down. We live somewhere kind of in the middle. And hopefully that's where we want to get. And when things do get really good for us, we appreciate it and we're happy, but we don't take it like, oh, this is what's going to happen to us every day. Because then it wouldn't even be a mountaintop experience. It would be everyday life. We have expectations of what life should be, and they're really skewed because it takes both good and bad to understand what's a good day and what's a bad day. If you have all bad days and you never have a good day, then you don't even know what a good day is, so you're not thinking about what a good day is. If all days are good and then someone's talking about a bad day, you wouldn't understand that. We need to understand ourselves and try to process the things that we know that we've lived with, and we know how we think about stuff. We've made our own thought patterns and things that we don't like, things we do like, people we like, people we don't like. Have you ever been somewhere and you met somebody and just right off the bat you don't like them? That is because you have all this available information in your mind and they're not hitting on the check marks that you should be checking off. You know there's something not right about them, and so you just stand off. But sometimes that is the very person that might help you. You don't realize sometimes we don't like to be around certain type of people because we think that we already know what they think. We think we know who they are. We think that they think they're better than us, or we have all these preconceived ideas of what somebody's like. When in reality, if you would drop your guard a little bit and just not come at them at a defensive way, but more offensive, like, you know, what could maybe I learn from this person? I've learned in my life sometimes that the people that I was most intimidated by were the people that I thought had it above me. I thought they were better than I was, you know, so I didn't want to get involved because I thought, you know, they're going to start realizing that I'm not, you know, them, and I felt uncomfortable around them. When in reality, those were the very people that helped me grow and get out of my stagnant way of thinking that I didn't measure up. You know, I didn't measure up in my mind to their level. They didn't have any preconceived idea that I wasn't at their level. A lot of people that you are intimidated by are the very people that want to help you. And they're not even realizing they're helping you. You learn by being around somebody that is maybe a little more intelligent than you are, somebody that is a little bit more successful than you are, somebody that did overcome an obstacle. You learn through their experience without having to learn it by yourself. Me as an individual, I learned everything the hard way. I didn't listen to somebody that had wisdom. I thought, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. So I went off and I learned it the hard way. And later in life, as I look back on the people that I thought didn't know what was going on, they really did know what was going on. I was the one that didn't know what was going on. And that was the battle. I thought I knew more than everybody else, when in reality, I didn't really know too much of anything. And now I say, when I was in my 20s, I knew everything. And now that I'm 73, what I thought I knew, I didn't even know that, because you really don't. We have all these ideas that we have to do this and we have to know this. None of us know everything. None of us are always special. Not everybody is successful. Not everybody's not successful. We all have a little part to play in life, and we all can learn and help each other no matter where we are in life. I don't care if you're the most successful CEO or if you're down at the bottom cleaning houses, or not that that's demeaning anybody, but I'm just saying on the scale of a CEO or a maid, we're all the same. We're all people. We have feelings. We're all trying to make a life. It's by degree that we feel that people are better than us. They might live in a bigger house, not as big, not as small as our house. Some people don't have a house at all, so they think that you have a house. You're like the top of the line when we're not. We need to break the barriers of what we think is successful. I actually have a little card here that I've had in my bedroom, and I read it almost every day. I can't even tell you how many years I've had this, because I've had a lot of years of down, a lot of ups and downs in life. I've had successful times, I've had bad times. But this is very, Booker T. Washington is who said this. And it says, success is to be measured not by the position that we have reached in life, but by the obstacles in which we have overcome trying to succeed. I think those are great words. I love this little thing. I've had it for many, many years. And it's given me encouragement when I felt really down and out. You have to overcome your circumstances. And it's difficult, but we can do it. And you need to pat yourself on the back sometimes to say, you know what? I may not be perfect yet, but I'm a whole lot better than I used to be. And at least I'm trying. That's all that we need to do is try. Jesus was the best motivator in the world. He said, if you have faith of a mustard seed is probably one of the smallest seeds that we have, but it grows into a huge bush, and that's all we need. We just have to have a little bit of faith to know that no matter what we're trying, if we work hard enough and we try hard enough and we don't lose our desire or our purpose to trying to change, we never will. We have to celebrate the small things that we've accomplished, because the small things eventually turn into bigger things. But we dismiss our small things thinking, well, I'm still this, but you know what? But aren't you better in this area? And that is what's so good about the Lord and learning about warfare and how to help yourself, because we have an inner struggle. Our own mind is who we're up against a lot of the time. We need to change the way we think about stuff. And that's why it says to take every thought captive. And then in 2 Corinthians 2:10 or 2:11, I'm sorry, so that we need to know about our enemy so that we are not taken advantage of by the enemy and we aren't ignorant of the way he operates. If we are studying and trying to learn the strategy of the enemy and how he attacks us and in what areas he attacks us, because each one of us has an area that we are attacked in. Some people, it might be relationships. That was mine. Some people, it might be drugs. Some people, it might be overeating. Some people might be they overdrink. We struggle because we're trying to find a way to comfort ourselves with the pain that we're holding. And there's a theme in that pain. We all have a theme. There's a part in our body or in our mind that we are on overload, and there's so much pain or loss in that area of life that we do things to comfort ourselves to make it go away instead of addressing it. And that is the enemy. The enemy knows that sweet spot or that part in your body or your mind that you are given to defeat because it's happened so often and there's so much pain to it. So you've got to start to learn, where is that theme in my life? And when you find it, then you'll be able to better know the strategy you're going to use when it comes towards you. And instead of going back in the past thinking about how you've reacted and keep doing that, you'll change the pattern. Is it going to still hurt? Yeah, but you're going to be more in control of it. It's not going to control you. I guess that's where we're trying to get here, is we want to control our responses and the way we think instead of running with it and letting them overtake everything that we're doing at that point in time in life. We need to, I'm looking at my notes, I stay on track. We cannot come up with new ways of changing the way that we react to things if we don't learn new patterns. When people don't like to talk to people, or they think, well, they don't know what I'm going through, or I don't have anybody I can really confide in, we need to find people that we can talk to, just in general, not so much about our issues, but just talk to people, get to know them, to see how they approach life and how they do things. Just by talking to somebody, just very casually, you'll hear them give you words of encouragement for yourself. They don't know it because they're talking about different things that they've encountered. That's why it's so good to talk about other people. Talk to them, let them talk about themselves, because you'll hear their story. And as you're hearing their story, they may not be talking to you like I am right now, but they're going to say things that is going to give you in your mind, oh, I haven't thought of that. You know, oh, I thought that's interesting. You know, I might have to think about that. We have to have new input that we can think about so that we can grow our thinking. If you're just staying in your mind in the circle of life of your thinking pattern and the things you've encountered, how can anything change because you don't have any new input or different ideas on how you could maybe approach something? You know, by talking to other people, we learn, and it opens up our minds to think, oh, you know, there might be another way. I've never thought of that. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've said, I never thought of that. And it makes sense when someone's just talking instead of someone coming to you like preaching to you. Well, this is what you should do. If people are just unguardedly talking about stuff, you can pick up a lot because you're in the position to want to listen because you don't feel like you're being preached to or being denigrated or, you know, being a lesson. It's just talking. And the Holy Spirit that lives with you within you, once you've accepted Jesus, he will put something that'll stay with you. And then you'll start thinking about it. That's what they call meditation. You'll start thinking about it and you go, you know, I'm going to try that the next time. And in your little list that you make, just a little tablet, not a big deal, but you need to be pretty conscious of doing this so that when something good happens to you, as well as when something causes you to revert back, that you have a reference to look at and say, oh yeah, I remember him saying that. Because left to yourself, if you heard a good idea, guarantee you by the end of the night or the next day, you're not even going to really remember what the good idea was. So we need to just write down something real short, but for our memory. And if you get, it's a habit that we got to get into. But if you have like a little tablet there, just write it down. You know, when I used to go to a shrink, I call them their psychologist, about dreams. You know, I said, "Do you dream?" I go, "No, I really don't dream." He goes, "Well, you dream every night. You just don't, you just not remembering them." But he goes, have a tablet by the side of your bed and write them down when you have a dream. Write down how you felt and what you were dreaming about. Just in part, I mean, in the middle of the night, he's asking me to do this. And I did do that. And then I did start realizing I did dream. And your dreams are your subconscious, and they're helping you go through your day and process what your emotions are. They're very insightful to you. If you wake up sad, what were you dreaming about? Because subconsciously, that's what you're thinking about, and you don't even realize it. There's so many tricks of trying to help yourself to change and to help, and you've got God on your side. He wants you. He will bring to remembrance things that you have forgotten. Because sometimes we've been through so much. Like myself, I started my journey when I was probably in my 40s. From birth to 40, there was a lot of stuff that happened. Did I remember it all? No. But the Holy Spirit will bring to remembrance certain situations, and then you'll remember them. And then it helps you understand, boy, this is where that kind of started with me. And it helps you develop your road to success and for healing. You know, it's amazing. And once you start on this road, you kind of are happy with yourself and you want to continue because you go, boy, this is kind of nice to understand myself a little bit better than I have. And on top of that, you're learning about the Lord and you're leaning on his help and his wisdom and his ability to help you recognize some of the things that you're going through and to help you get well. You know, that's the bottom line. We all want to be happy. We all want to be able to help people. We don't want to be mean. So anyway, that's what those were all about. And then Paul also wrote in Philippians 3:13 through 24. And also, I'm going to be having these at the end of the series, at the end of this talk. I'm going to post a sheet with the verses I give so that you can look at them if you want to, or print them out, because they're very helpful for you at times. But in Paul, in Philippians 3, like I said, 13, for it is God who is at work in you, both to will and to work for his good pleasure. Do all things without grumbling and disputing. That is a key right there, that God is working in you to bring you to your wholeness. And he does not do everything you're doing without grumbling. We always complain. We're constantly complaining about stuff. The Lord does not like complaining. Complaining doesn't really do anything for us other than get us more angry and start at the pity party. Complaining is nothing more than a pity party. Pity parties don't accomplish anything. They just really usually make you feel worse. But if you would do that, if you would stop complaining about stuff and realize that God's helping you when things do, even if you're doing something great and something bad happens, instead of saying, oh, I knew this was going to happen, say, no, Lord, thank you that you're helping me. I fell here, but I know I can get up and we're going to start again. Don't dwell on what you didn't do. Dwell on what you're trying to accomplish and do it again, because we're going to fail. I mean, we're not going to sit here and go, today I am not going to cuss today. And you can wake up at 7 in the morning and say, I'm not going to cuss today. And by 7:15, you've already done it. You can't ruin the whole day because you cussed at 7:15. But you're aware. You're a whole lot more aware that you cussed because you don't want to do that. I'm using that as an example. But it's the same with anything. Whatever you put in that blank, just because you did do it, because you realize you've been doing that for so many years, it's going to be hard. It's like quitting smoking. I don't want to smoke a cigarette. Well, it's easy to say that when you first wake up, but 10, 20, 30 minutes into the day, you think, I want a cigarette. You have to overcome that. And I remember going to a hypnotist telling me, he goes, Terry, he goes, when you want a cigarette, it only takes, what did he say? I think he said 2 seconds or 3 seconds and the urge will go away. But he didn't tell me that the urge was going to come back every 2 or 3 minutes. That's the part he left out. And then I remember him telling me, he goes, when you want a cigarette, if you're sitting, stand up. If you're standing, go sit down. If you're out, go walk. Change what you're doing. When you have that urge to have a cigarette, be it a drink, be it get mad and you want to yell at somebody, or whatever it is, get away from the situation. If you're standing and you're talking to somebody, then stop talking and walk out. Do something different and come back and address it in a couple minutes, because things will slow down. You'll be more relaxed and your mind's more at ease when you're doing it. These are all keys of helping us. And as you read the Bible and you start to learn about the adversary and you're reading to see, what did Jesus say about that? What other stories in the Bible can I relate to? There's hundreds of stories of people's lives in the Bible that went through warfare. Joseph in the book of Genesis is a great story to read. I think it starts Genesis 39 to 51. It's a great story. He was sold into slavery by his brothers. They hated him. Then the man that he worked for, his wife said she raped him or was trying to rape her, and he was thrown into prison unjustly. I mean, it goes on and on. I mean, this poor man, the things he went through in his life, yet he served God and he ended up being the second most in command of all of Egypt. The Lord used all of his, defeats or whatever you want to call it to good. He was learning through each and every one of them. And that's what we do. We have a lot of material within ourselves that we've went through and emotions that we can help ourselves, knowing that I don't want to feel like that anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. And this path here that we're trying to do here is trying to show us that we can. And the only person that's keeping you away from getting it healed and well is yourself. And your inability to want, it's not inability, but you not choosing to stick with it. You need to stick with it, and you've got to understand what's making you keep falling back to not being able to change what you want to change. And it's the inner struggle within yourself. That's why it's so difficult. And the enemy knows that. And at the end result of the whole thing, it's the enemy keeping you from your freedom. And I know that that's a hard thing to overcome. And I know if you've listened to any of these and you're still listening, you know there's some virility to what I'm saying. And you want to get past this stage. And hopefully, if you continue on, I'm going to get more into scriptures. I know that a lot of people don't like that, but I know that it is only way. It's your relationship with Jesus and your time that you spend into reading and trying to study and understand something. And when you don't understand it, when you read it, just stop. And instead of keep reading, stop and really try to think about what is this trying to say. And I know that in there's comments that you can do, and if you want to write a comment and ask a question, I would be more than happy to address those questions when I'm talking like this. It would actually help me to know what areas I could be more poignant in trying to talk about for people to understand more what they're trying to do. It would help me immensely. This sitting here talking to my phone is very difficult for me. I like feedback and talk because there's so much more you can learn when you're in the moment. Having to listen is not in the moment. But I know this format will work eventually. So I'm going to close off right now today for this. I know it's been kind of a lot of information, but the main thing is that to remember that you're not doing what you want to do, like it said in Romans 7. You're doing the very thing you hate, and it's because that's the battle. That's the inner struggle with you and the enemy. And you can overcome it with God, and God wants you to. So God bless, and I look forward to our next meeting.